Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv. And it is just past midnight here in Ukraine. Hey, Nightshade. There's the peeps coming in. There's Jay. Hey, Willie. Hey, Hobo. Hey, Lame. Hey, Eli. Hey, PH. How's everybody doing? Jessica, Darlene, Rob Walker. Hey, Cheyenne. Hey, Marilyn. Marilyn will be our live sponsor tomorrow night. Tonight, our live sponsor is Ballerina. If you see Ballerina around, give him a thank you. Thanks, Steve B. How's everybody doing tonight? Thanks, Gertson. Did you see that, Hobo? Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, Maddie Wright. Steve with a V, how you doing? Belt Bat. Well, I have yet to see those F-16s in action. I look forward to it. I do look forward to it. I'm waiting for that day. I would hope that we'd see a flyby over Kyiv. Maybe I can get some video and share it with all you. But that has yet to happen. So, I've been in this country for, how long now? March, April, May, June, July, 17 months. And I have never seen a plane in the skies over Kyiv. That's the world we're living in. Hey, Vanetta. That's the world we're living in. 17 months and never seen a plane. How was it last night? It was fine last night. There were 7 out of 7 Shaheds intercepted. That's a big difference after the 89 the night before, right? Now that's on the Ukrainian side. So last night the Russians sent, hey Rocco, the Russians sent 7 Shahed drones of the 136 variety. And all 7 of them were shot down. So I slept like a baby last night. I didn't have any problems last night. Now, I want to put that, though, in opposition to what the Russian Federation is claiming. Russia claimed that it shot down 18 drones to Ukraine shooting down 7. Over Kaluga, Bryansk, Belgorod, and Rostov oblasts. And it's interesting to me that the Ukrainians are firing into Russia. Hey, David. Firing into Russia almost 3 times the number of drones that Russia is flying into Ukraine on a daily basis. Now, yesterday was an exception with the 89 drones, but consistently now, hey G2, but consistently now we are seeing the Ukrainians firing more drones into Russia than the Russians are firing into Ukraine. It's quite a change, and it's not to be underestimated what that change means. Hey Fitz, hey Pedro, hey Wind. Now, I want to highlight last night's drone attack. Debris from the drones struck a house on the outskirts of Kyiv. And the house belongs to Ilya Pomarov, who, for those of you who watch Russia, you will know that name. This guy was a member of the Russian parliament, a member of the State Duma. He was the only member of the State Duma to not vote in favor of the anti-gay legislation that the Kremlin passed back in 2012. He was the only member of the Duma to vote against the annexation of Crimea back in 2014. And he escaped Russia, escaped from under Putin's thumb because, of course, he opposed the administration. So you have to flee, right, if you're in Russia and you oppose Putin. And he is now a Ukrainian citizen, and he has a Russian language television channel that is pro-Ukrainian and anti-Putin. His reputation is mixed, but it is interesting to me that such a high-profile person was injured, and his wife was also injured in this debris apparently raining down on their home here in Kyiv. Hey, Bobby. Our best wishes, of course, go out to he and his wife for their speedy recovery, and I am glad that they are safe. In addition to those 7 drones, an unknown number of Iskander-Ms targeted Kharkiv. Those attacks were targeted at the railroad station and at energy infrastructure. And so the Russians continue to pound civilian transportation and energy infrastructure everywhere that they can. In Kursk, the Ukrainian Navy, who doesn't get a lot of press because it's a small organization these days, and their ships are stuck in Turkey and in Portsmouth right now because the Turks won't let them through the Straits of the Bosphorus. And so in Kursk, the Russians claim that they shot down 4 Neptune missiles. So these are modified ship-to-ship missiles. They've been modified for ground-to-ground attacks. And these Neptunes, the Russians say they shot them all down. However, Ukraine claims that they successfully hit a number of military targets, and a large fire on the territory of Kursk is still burning. It may have been an ammunition dump, but we're waiting clarification of what exactly was hit. Hey, Jacksonville, how you doing? The ISW says that Russia claims Ukraine ambushed Russian sabotage forces in Chernihiv. So, according to the ISW, what happened was a sabotage group of Russians came across the border in the Chernihiv region, likely to mine the local roads, maybe to hit a power station, that sort of common sabotage that we see happening all along that Chernihiv-Sumy line, along the border with Kursk and Belgorod and Bryansk. And we know these guys are coming across the border and they're laying these mines on the roads because my friend Tatiana's neighbor's son was killed by such a mine, right, on a road that they drove every day. One day they woke up and they drove that road and it was mined, and it cost them their lives. So these sabotage groups are coming across the border all the time. In this case, the Ukrainians managed to identify them, ambush them, and eliminate them. The ISW also says of the front line that Russia continues to make minor advances in the Chasiv Yar and Toretsk regions. Now, this is really interesting. Did you guys know that after World War II, Russia and Japan never actually signed a peace treaty? Technically, World War II is still being fought between the Russians and the Japanese. Hey, Lars. Hey, Truthful. Now, why is that? Well, it's because Russia claimed the Kuril Islands. So there's a bunch of islands north. There's an island chain north of Japan that the Russians landed on during World War II. And they've never given those islands back. And because they refuse to give them back, Japan has never signed a peace treaty with Russia. So technically, Russia and Japan are still fighting World War II in the same way that North Korea is still fighting the Korean War. It's amazing. Now, you guys know, because I have reported it here before and mentioned it repeatedly, that the 4 S-300 air defense missile systems that the Russians had up there on the Kuril Islands were removed from there about, gosh, it must be 6 or 8 months ago now. And since the removal of those air defenses, there have been some noises from the Japanese about getting the Kuril Islands back. Well, apparently this has gotten to the Russians, and they are running all kinds of training maneuvers and exercises in and around the Kuril Islands. And that's going on, just kind of saber-rattling to the Japanese to back off. Hang on, Steve B., we're getting to that. Putin signed a decree doubling the signing bonus for Russian citizens. Now, you may have heard a lot of talk about the $22,000 signing bonus in St. Petersburg and Moscow, but that's only in St. Petersburg and Moscow. The rest of the country, the signing bonus has been about $2,000. Well, they have doubled that to $4,000. And that's a lot of money for the average Russian. That's about 4 months worth of salary for the average Russian. Now, at the rate of 30,000 people a month, this adds up quickly to the tune of, I think I did the math on this. It's 14. No, I'm sorry. Wait, let me think. At $4,000 a month times 30,000 people, that's $1.2 million a month. That's about $14 million a year, right? $14.4 million a year, just in sign-up bonuses. That doesn't count the $34,000 payment that they owe your family when you are unalived in Ukraine. Just paying these benefits is going to be an ongoing problem for the Kremlin. There's no two ways about it. Russian soldiers were videotaped on e-scooters at the front line. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. We've seen golf carts, motorcycles, ATVs, bicycles, and now e-scooters at the front. One of Russia's largest oil refineries, Gazprom's Omsk location, Steve, is burning. The cause is unreported. We don't have video of a drone strike. We don't have word from Russian authorities as to what the cause may have been. We don't know if it's partisan activities. We don't know if it's a drone strike from the Ukrainians. We just don't know. Hey, Chris Carter. Wow, the gang is all here, huh? Nice. Yeehaw. Let's see. Now, this I thought was really interesting. So you guys know the HUR or the GUR, the Military Intelligence Directorate of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. On their Telegram channel today, they are saying that from January through May of 2024, the number of criminal cases for illegal discharge because of medical conditions, phony medical conditions, or just bribes, just for taking bribes, has tripled in the Russian Southern Military District. So if last year there were 100 cases of bribery to get out of the army, this year there's 300 cases. But it appears, now I'm just making that number up, it appears that the numbers are much larger. 50% of the claims are from the Russian 8th Combined Army, and 36% are from the 58th Combined Arms Army, whose commander was arrested in the spring for corruption. And so it appears that the desperation of the Russians fighting in Ukraine to exit the country at any cost continues and seems to be exacerbated and accelerating. Congratulations to Ukraine for their second Olympic win. It was a silver medal in the 50-meter rifle three positions event, and the silver was won by Serhiy Kulish. Kongratulations, Serhiy, in Ukraine on your second Olympic medal. The first one was a bronze in the saber by Olya Karhan. Maybe the next one will be a gold, right? Bronze, silver, gold. Nice progress, Ukraine. Nice progress. Oh, shoot. I wanted to start with this because this is the really big story today. But it came out recently, and so I already had a bunch of notes down. But the breaking news today, the big story today, is the prisoner swap. Paul Whelan is free. Evan Gershkowitz is free, along with one other American and another 14 folks from other countries, including Russia. So in the biggest prisoner swap since the Cold War, since 1985, the Americans and their European allies, specifically Germany, Poland, Slovenia, and Norway, worked together to secure the release of 16 people imprisoned inside of Russia. I'm thrilled, Maddie Wright. I mean, I know I'm grateful for Evan Gershkowitz. Don't get me wrong. But I think Paul Whelan is the real story here. I think that's the real story. God bless Paul Whelan, the way that he has suffered. So it's good to have him home. It's like, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the shores of Tripoli, right? You guys all know the U.S. Marine Corps hymn, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, right? Well, where does that come from, the shores of Tripoli? That comes from the early part of the 19th century, when the United States shipping in the Mediterranean was under threat from the Barbary Coast pirates, right, from what is modern-day Libya. And 1805, Tom Newman, right, the Treaty of Tripoli. Well, there's two parts to that, but it doesn't matter. 1805. Now, when we say that pirates, the Barbary pirates, were harassing American shipping, what do we mean? Well, what they were really doing was they were stealing the ships and the cargo, and then they were holding the crews hostage. And what would happen is you would get a message in the United States that your father or brother or sister or mother or whatever was being held hostage in North Africa. You had to pay a ransom to get them back. And there was this kind of hostage business that was being run in North Africa on American shipping. Well, this is a return to kind of hostage diplomacy, where the Russians just grab people, Americans in Russia, so that they can get back the genuine killers and corrupt spies and murderers, like this Vadim Krasnikov, who was known as the Berlin Bicycle Killer, because he offed a Chechen officer who turned on Chechnya and Russia and murdered him right in a park in Berlin in broad daylight. And Putin wants this assassin back. Now, why does Putin want this assassin back? He wants this assassin back not just because he has other people for him to assassinate, but because he wants to send a message out into the world of the thugs and the killers and the gangsters that he depends on to instill fear in the rest of us, He wants to send a message to them. If they do his will, they do his bidding, and they end up in jail, he will rescue them. He will get them out, and they will be rewarded for their loyalty. This is exactly the wrong message that you want to send to that underground criminal syndicate that Putin depends on to enforce his will in the world. Hey, Paul. So who was swapped? Now, the good news here is that they got half as many prisoners back as the West got back. We got 16 out of Russian gulags. I'm sorry to say that the young dental hygienist from LA was not among them. She is still rotting in a Russian prison. But as I said, I'm so grateful that Paul Whelan is out, and of course Evan Gershkowitz, and the young woman from the Free Press, Radio Free Europe. The trade happened in Ankara, where planes arriving with 24 prisoners, 16 from Russia and 8 from the U.S., Germany, Poland, Slovenia, and Norway. Sorry, it was 8 from Russia and 16. Oh, no, that's right. It was 8 Russian prisoners from U.S., Germany, Poland, Slovenia, and Norway. Now, why Putin did this now is unclear. It could be that he is worried about what's going to happen in the U.S. presidential election, and he doesn't know who he's going to be dealing with come November. And because of that, and because of his big, huge desire to get Vadim back, the Berlin bicycle killer back, they went ahead and they did this, the biggest prisoner swap since the Cold War. It's huge. Now, Bill Browder, who's a Putin critic and wrote the book, How I Became Putin's Number One Enemy, which I'm not sure that he is that, but Bill Browder is a great guy. He's behind the Majeski Act. And according to him, he thinks Putin is scared. Putin needed these resources back. It demonstrates Putin's weakness. It demonstrates the fact that he is not in control. Oh, shush. Cheyenne, do take care of that, would you please? Thank you so much. Okay. Now, it looks like, don't anybody get too excited, but it does look like, for the first time in the course of this war, a drone, a simple, low-cost FPV drone, has targeted and destroyed an aircraft and its crew. It was a Russian Mi-8 helicopter. That's a $15 million two-ton helicopter. No, it's bigger than that. It's heavy. It's a heavy helicopter used for transporting people and equipment. And this Mi-8, somewhere inside of the Donetsk region, about less than 20 kilometers from the front line, was reportedly intercepted by a drone on takeoff, and $15 million crashed and burned to the ground. That also brings Russian helicopter losses right up to about par with the number of helicopters that Russia lost in the invasion of Afghanistan over the course of 10 years. Over the course of 10 years. Yeah, no, none of you people are coming live. We just don't do that here. That's not how this works. I don't give a platform to the enemy. I don't give you, the moderators here will shut you down. All you cunts with your fucking IP addresses in St. Petersburg, you can fuck right off. Fuck off. Oh, shit. Am I going to get banned now? Probably. Sorry, Cheyenne. That's all right. I have a lot of other work to do. Okay, let's see. So, 15 million. Goodbye, Felicia. The $15 million helicopter taken out by a fucking $500 drone or some shit. Brilliant. Beautiful. They've been working on that for a long time. It's a hard thing to do. Also, the entire crew was lost in that attack. Video released. Oh, yeah. We saw video today of drone-on-drone dogfighting. A Russian Supercam recon drone was successfully taken out in a drone dogfight over the skies of eastern Ukraine. Thanks, Liam. You might not have me for a week here in a minute. We also got, so in an interview with Svoboda Radio today, Andrei Yusov, who's the spokesperson for the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Directorate, gave us new information about the attack on the Olyena Air Base up there near Murmansk. Now remember, that's 1,800 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. 1,800 kilometers. And according to Andrei Yusov, they used a new type of weaponized attack drone that blows out a fragmentation charge above aircraft standing in the open to riddle that aircraft with holes, turn it into Swiss cheese. According to Yusov, they have good intelligence that indicates that 2 Tu-22Ms, right, these are the big backfire bombers, were damaged. And not only that, Yusov brought the receipts. He's got the tail numbers. It was tail number 31 and tail number 33. Tail number 31 sustained damage to the tail section, while 33 sustained damage to the upper fuselage. Neither plane is likely to fly anytime soon. More importantly, in my opinion, that leaves Russia with 25 Tu-22s. They're down to 25 Tu-22s. Now, assuming that half of them are airworthy, that's maybe 13 that still fly or that are capable of flying bombing sorties today. Just another 13 to go, and there will be no more backfire bombers to worry anybody. Remember when we were kids and we were worried about the backfire bombers taking nuclear bombs over the Arctic and flinging them at the U.S.? Remember those days? Those days are quickly coming to a close, my friends, as there will be no more backfire bombers before long. China is to block exports of civilian drones with military applications starting September 1st. So it appears that the meeting between Minister Kuleba from Ukraine, and Minister Yi from Beijing was more successful than we thought, because clearly the export of civilian drones with military application is of great interest to Ukraine, because that's what the Russians are doing, right? So that's a really interesting development that demonstrates that China acts only in its own interest. It does not give a shit about Russia. The U.S. has suspended aid to Georgia. So in the wake of the Georgia passing its unfortunate Moscow-like rules the LGBTQ legislation, and the foreign agents legislation, all of which is extremely undemocratic and indicative of an authoritarian society. Georgia is losing the financial support it gets from the U.S. Ukraine is keeping pace with the Russian Federation, mobilizing 30,000 men a month since May. May, June, and July, according to Kyiv, saw 30,000 men either volunteered or conscripted into the armed services. Now, Ukraine had maybe 40 million people at the beginning of this war. Russia has 140 million. Russia is paying these huge signing bonuses to get 30,000 people a year, or a month rather, while at the same time forcing we just got video yesterday from somewhere out in the Far East. The conscription officers, the Russian conscription officers, go to this hotel where all of these migrants are staying who have just gotten their Russian passports. And what do? They march them out at gunpoint to conscript them. That's the cost as an immigrant of getting a Russian passport today. It means you're getting a rifle and you're going to the front. And that's exactly what they're doing. And with that kind of mercurial, authoritarian, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a particular word I'm looking for, draconian kind of Shanghai of people. They're barely getting 30,000 a month while Ukraine is getting it from volunteers and conscripts. And that's why nobody wants to go to Russia. That's exactly why nobody wants to go to Russia. One of the reasons. Now, this is, in my mind, this is probably, thanks, Paul. This is probably one of the most interesting aspects of this war to me. The Kyiv Post has obtained exclusive video and photos of the HUR special operations targeting Russian forces in Syria. In Syria. The target was the Kyiv air base, which Russia has controlled since 2015, when it first got on the ground to support the Assad regime, east of Aleppo. This air base is used to train and transport Syrian and African mercenaries to Ukraine. So they conscript, or they, sign them up, train them there, send them to Ukraine with a Russian passport. According to the reporting, an electronic warfare complex was destroyed. Drones targeted multiple military objects, including ammo storage, vehicles, military armored vehicles, and personnel. This means that Ukrainian special forces are engaged in actively hunting Russian and Wagner forces in Mali, as we saw earlier in the week, in Sudan, as we have seen repeatedly, and in Syria. No matter where these Russian war criminals hide in the world, they cannot escape the righteous wrath of Ukrainian justice. They're all going to be rooted out. It was interesting to me that this attack took place the day after Assad was in Moscow, right? Assad was just in Moscow embracing Putin, and a day later, Ukrainian forces are destroying Russian forces on the ground in Syria. Finally, there was another large-scale armored attack near Novomykolaivka. It involved 10 tanks, 47 APCs, 10 motorcycles, and one golf cart, one Desert Cross 3000. Of the 10 tanks, 8 were destroyed. Of the 47 armored personnel carriers, 12 were destroyed. Of the 10 motorcycles, 9 were destroyed, and of course the golf cart was also destroyed. Now, if we think about what many analysts have said regarding Russian capabilities, what we see the Russians doing is making small, company-sized attacks on foot. The Russians aren't getting back into their vehicles until they're making big pushes and they think they can make a breakthrough. And we saw this nearby in the Prokofsk direction just last week, a very similar kind of attack. In this area near Novomykhailivka, where this happened, in just a 6 by 6 kilometer space, since the offensive began back in October of 2023, the Russians have lost in that 6 kilometer by 6 kilometer space over 400 vehicles. Over 400 vehicles. That includes armored personnel carriers, tanks, APCs, trucks, etc. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is my kind of, hey, Walter Williamson. Those are the big headlines for the day. So just before we go to the Q&A, I want to thank our sponsor of the day, Ballerina, who I didn't see come in. I don't know if he's here or not. But if Ballerina is around, please thank him for us. Also, I can't help but notice Marilyn Fuller is here tonight, who will be the sponsor of tomorrow night's live. Truthful is here, who was the sponsor of last night's live. Chris Carter is here, who was a sponsor of Monday's live. Everybody's here, including Dark Irish, who is a big sponsor, a big fan of the channel. Or not a fan, a supporter. Pardon me. Sorry, Fitz. I would call you a supporter. Okay. In addition, I want to thank hey, Jedi. I want to thank the moderator team, best moderator team on the Tickety Talk, Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, John Williams, Jay, and Travis. PT is on vacation this week. I hope he's enjoying the lake. Thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. Thanks to Shanetta. Yeah, it's like Brangelina. Thanks, Dave. And I want to thank Vanetta, who also has the Dismantled Project 2025 group on the Book of Faces. Join us over there. There's a bunch of good updates coming to that project. And thanks to Lars, who's got the Discord server and who manages the Alexievich archive. Okay, so having said all that, thank you all, because there's no fucking way I could do this alone. That is for sure. So deeply grateful to all of you for your support. If you want to support the channel with a live sponsorship, the PayPal is in the description or in the bio. And if you haven't yet joined the Patreon, please do. Teamwork makes the dream work. Hell yeah, it does. Hell yeah, it does. Okay, let's see now. What'd I do with that? Oh, I left it over there. Yeehaw! All right, we still got 18 minutes left. So questions, comments. Points of observation or personal need. Anything from anybody. There were definitely questions before, but Peter's interview on the gays came out on YouTube today, and Yulia's new show premiered on the same channel. Oh, yeah? Cool. Interesting. Thanks, Richard. It was really a pleasure talking to Corey, and I felt like we had a good conversation. I would encourage you to take a look at that interview, or if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you probably know my views on all of these things. Maybe share that interview and try to reach some other folks. I'm interested in the folks fighting inside Russia. Aren't we all, June? Now, we don't know much about them. We know that the Freedom of Russia Legion and the Russian Volunteer Corps have both said that they have unactivated cells inside of Russia. And they have recently been taking credit for a bunch of partisan activity, including train derailments, oil pipeline switching station fires, a rail engine just coming into the station on fire. So they're clearly active, as is the Atesh partisan group. But beyond that, we know very little about them, June, for obvious reasons. These guys are putting their lives at risk every day. How about the refineries update? The only refinery update that I have, Bobby, is that there's one on fire right now. The Gazprom refinery in Omsk. There's a fire that is reported to be about 300 square meters. And we don't know what infrastructure at that Gazprom refinery is on fire. We don't know if it's the cracking tower or if it's just a storage depot or what it is. We don't really know. Alex Gaz is arriving in Kyiv from England. Any tips on how to get by? Check your ego at the door. Dude, I find so many people, so many of us from the West that come here with the wrong attitude regarding the Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people do not give a fuck about us and our experiences and our opinions. They are perfectly capable of running their own lives, and they do not need to hear from you. So if you're going to get their attention, start by listening. Thanks, Peter. I am American. The Tartars, the Volga Tartars in Bashkortostan and that region, they're making plans for a six. I can't say country, but a 6-region independent confederation, independent from the Russian Federation. So that's a real thing, and the Volga Tartars are behind that. That's happening. In Bashkortostan, there's an armed rebellion happening up in the hills. So the cracks are forming. These are all dominoes to watch, June. I agree. Superfly Samurai. If you take a listen to there's a great interview. There was not a great interview, but there was a good interview. I had a good time. Posted on the YouTube channel The Gaze. That's at The Gaze digital platform. It was just posted today, and that gives you the whole story of my life before I came here and why I came here and stuff like that. And I have one pinned at the top of my profile too, if you're interested in the gruesome details. Nicholas saw a headline about another Cold War. What are your thoughts on that? This is not a Cold War. This is a hot war. And the United States and our allies have to stop acting like we're not under attack too. Like for the last 20 years, Russian disinformation has been poisoning our political discourse with its corrosive blend of lies, hatreds, prejudices, and religiosity. Phony religiosity, of course, hypocrisy. So, Nicola, we are not in a Cold War. We are in a fucking hot war, and we better start acting like it. You're welcome, PH. Ukraine isn't Russia. Hell no, it's not. I didn't see Ballerina. Is Ballerina here? Can something be done about open border in Hungary? So Maddie makes a great point. The Hungarians have been eroding the requirements for entering the country, making it easy for Russians to go to Hungary. The problem is Hungary is the EU. And once you're in Hungary, you can go anywhere in the EU you want without a visa. This is a problem. This erosion of the security checks at the Hungarian border opens the door for literally thousands of FSB agents and agents of the Kremlin to enter the EU and cause havoc at will. And the EU is trying to figure out what to do about it. I think very serious discussions are happening about kicking Hungary out. They're a problem. They're not on the same page as the rest of the Union. They don't want the same things. They've let their government be subverted by a wannabe dictator who has done everything he can to subvert their constitution and the institutions of democracy. No, Ukraine cannot win without taking out Putin. Or rather, Putin cannot survive a Ukrainian win. The Ukrainians don't have to take him out. The very act of winning, of defeating Russia, will be the end of Vladimir Putin. There's no two ways about that. How do Russians get to Hungary? Bobby, that is a great question. Because Hungary is one of the only EU countries that haven't banned flights to and from Russia. Because Orban is not going to do anything to disturb his lapdog apprenticeship to Putin. That's for sure. Slovakia is a different story, Bertie. You're not wrong. It's a concern, especially with Fico recovering from his assassination attempt. But Slovakia isn't quite the problem that Hungary has been. Thanks, Road Rat. You see it as a war against Putin, not against Russia. You're wrong. You're just wrong. One man could not do what this man has done. It takes millions. This is very much Russia versus Ukraine. Van agrees with me. Thanks, Van. Looks like Maddie Wright does too. Hungarian people do not support Russia. There is a monument in Budapest. The Hungarian people don't, Paul, but the government that they have allowed to run roughshod over them? Sure fucking does. Yes, it does. Chasiv Yar is a very difficult situation, Dave. If you have a friend in Chasiv Yar, my best wishes go out to them. Oh yeah, the ban on the Olympics, Bobby, is a real problem for Russia. Russia has always distinguished itself at the Olympics, and now this year, I think last Olympics you had something like, oh, I want to say 316 Russians competing, something like that. This Olympics, there's 15, and they're under neutral flags. You know, I wouldn't mind them under neutral flags if the neutral flags were blood-stained. Maybe I wouldn't care that much. Orban got bought or compromised or whatever, but he is a problem. Putin wants to be a czar. There's no two ways about it. Your buddy's doing wounded evacuations from Chasiv Yar. God bless him. They do cheat, Rational Squirrel. Anything on, I assume you mean Sumy, Maddie. Sumi's getting shelled from across the border pretty regularly. But the offensive that we've been worried about happening of the Russians coming over the border there, that doesn't seem to be materializing. It could be that the losses in the Kharkiv direction have been so bad that they've had to pull the troops meant for the Sumy offensive down to Kharkiv. Or it could be that seeing the way that the Kharkiv offensive has gone, the Russians have just decided against going into Sumy. Or it may yet be coming. We don't know. The people in, I don't know what's happening in Belarus right now, Walter. I know that there is a Belarusian revolutionary group outside of Belarus that is working to destabilize the, Uncle Lukashenko, working to destabilize Uncle Luka's regime, but that's slow going. Scrooge the Devil. Hey, Scrooge, how you doing, pal? Did you discuss how China's banks had to pull back from Russia because of sanctions? Not today, Roy. I didn't see anything new on that, and we've discussed that in the past. Of course Orban was bought, just like Trump, says Paul Molman. And I do not disagree. Shouldn't be at the Olympics, period. I agree. Many of those neutral athletes have shown public support for the invasion. They're not neutral. Exactly, Richard. Haven't seen Lavrov on the stage. What has he been doing? He was just somewhere. He was just somewhere for something, for a conference with somebody. Shoot. I want to say he was in Beijing after Kuleba was, but don't quote me on that. He was out of the country. He's someplace recently. He's not dead. Like if you've seen, there was a bullshit story going around that he was dead the other day. He's not dead. Yeah, I don't know, Superfly Samurai, about what's happening there at the Southgate Vigil or something. There's been some riots, and it would be very unsurprising to me if Russia did not have a hand in that. It would be very unsurprising to me indeed. Hey, Encino Tech. Hayden, how you doing? Hey, Russell Kennedy. Oh yeah, Birdie, don't diss Superfly on this because it's not a conspiracy theory. We know that the Russians paid assassins to take out Navalny's chief of staff in Lithuania. We know that Russians paid gangsters to burn the mall in Warsaw. We know that they were behind the IKEA fire in, was that Estonia or Latvia? One of those. Come on. We know that they're doing this. So no, it's entirely plausible. Chris, the live is at 5 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Good night, Brian. Hey, West Virginia. Do we know how they're going to use the F-16s? And, I'm not a military person. I'm not a pilot. I'm certainly not a fast jet pilot. And my understanding is that the first thing they're going to try to do is they're going to try to get local air superiority. So they're going to try to clear the skies over Ukraine. That's going to mean that the Russians can't fly those sorties close to the front line where they're dropping those glide bombs that are such a problem. So I hope. I don't think dogfights rational, Squirrel, because unlike the MiGs, as I understand it, the F-16s have over-the-horizon targeting. So the pilots don't have to see the other aircraft that they're aiming at. They can simply acquire the target and fire. And that's a huge advantage over what the MiGs are capable of, apparently. Fire and forget. Do you guys know it's a rotisserie for the house. You set it and forget it. That was their big ad, set it and forget it. I forget what they were called, but a buddy of mine got me one as a housewarming gift one time. And when you open the manual up, the very first thing that it says in 62-point type red letters, do not set and forget. Yeah. Okay, it's top of the hour. I want to thank again our sponsor for tonight, Ballerina. I want to thank the moderator team, PT, John Williams, Vanetta, Cheyenne, Jay, and Travis. The Roaster by Ronco. No, that wasn't it. What was it called? Set it and forget it. I don't know. Anyway. Hey, Roman. How you doing, pal? Hey, Jerry-O. Rotisserie. It was a kind of rotisserie, yeah. I just forget what it was called. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So big thanks to the moderator team, to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group over on the Book of Faces, to Vanetta, who has the Dismantle Project 2025 group on the Book of Faces, and to Lars, who has the Discord server and the Alexievich archive. So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for being there for me. Because you are, I can be here for you. And it's my great pleasure and privilege to be here at this time in history. Thank you, Betty. I sure appreciate it. Thank you, June. Thank you, Vanetta. There's Ballerina liking the live. Thanks, Ballerina. Thanks for all your support. Thanks, Van. All right, everybody. Make it a great day. Take care.